Hi everyone, today I'm talking about Condottiere, which is a 2 to 6 player board game designed by Dominique Earhart and published by Z-Man Games. This one takes around 20 to 45 minutes to play according to the box. Before I get into my review of Condottiere, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, Kienda.co.uk, which is actually the retailer where I picked up Condottiere. So if you use my discount code in the show notes, you can get 5% off your first order. But let's get into the review. So Condottiere is an area control and hand management style game that's going to take place on a board that looks like this. Now, the objective of the game is to control 5 regions, which can be anywhere, like so. So let's say I was the yellow player and I had these 5 regions. Then I would win the game. But additionally, if I have 3 adjacent regions, like so, as in the borders are touching each other, that is also going to be an instant victory condition. So the way these regions are contested is through the use of these cards, and at the start of the game each player is going to get given a hand of 10 cards at random from that deck, and you're going to keep those close to your chest and not show anybody. But just for example's sake, I've put some face up here to show you what these cards consist of. So essentially there's going to be 2 types of cards, the first of which is going to be these mercenary cards, which are basically your troops, your battle line, which is your power to try and influence that region. And these are going to range from 1 all the way up to 10. I believe there's 10 1 cards in the deck and 8 of every other type. And additionally, on top of those standard mercenary cards, there are a bunch of these special cards scattered throughout the deck, and these do vary in their rareness. So some of them are a lot more common than others. So the way the game is going to flow is that the player with this battle marker is going to select which region they want to be contested. So let's just say they chose Firenze with no rhyme or reason there. And that means that this round, Firenze is going to be the region that is contested. And what's going to happen is that in player order, you are going to either play a card from your hand or you are going to pass. So those are your only 2 options. So let's just say that the first player wanted to bid with this 3 card here, just to start off and show some strength. So again, once this player has played the card, it's going to go to the player to the left, and they are either going to pass and drop out of the fight, potentially still winning if they had played any cards beforehand, or they're going to play a card themselves. And when they play that card, it doesn't necessarily have to be a stronger card than the one that's already been played. They just need to put something down to show that they are still in the fight. But let's take a look at what some of these special cards do and show why and when you might want to play them. So the first special card we have here is the Bishop. This is quite a powerful card that actually eliminates all the strongest cards in the battle at that time. So let's just say that I'd only played a 1, and 2 of my opponents had already played their 10s. If I played my Bishop next time, then all the 10s currently in the battle are going to get wiped off and no longer participate. So it's a very strong one to play at the right time, and you want to be doing it when you know that all your opponents have put a lot of strong cards on the table. And additionally, after playing a Bishop card, you actually get to move this little peace dove somewhere on the board to show that this region where you place it cannot be contested until somebody else plays a Bishop. So this is a really good tool to use that say you're not in a strong position to win the fight, but you really need that region. If you play this one, then it's going to protect it from being claimed by somebody else. The next card here is this Scarecrow card, which I have to say is one of my favourites, and this can be used in a number of ways. But essentially all this does is that when you play it, you get to pull back a mercenary card back into your hand that you've already played this battle. So let's just say that you played some high cards, and all of a sudden that battle starts turning against you and you weren't in such a strong position to win it as you thought you would have been. Then if you play the Scarecrow card, you can take your strongest card back, ready to fight another day. Additionally, this card can be used as quite a strong way to bluff your opponents into thinking you want certain regions. So let's just say, I wanted to fool my opponents into thinking I wanted this region when in reality I didn't want it at all. I could maybe play a high card, kind of lure my opponents into playing their high cards as well, because they might think you really want it, and then all of a sudden you spend your Scarecrow card, bring it back into your hand, and have nothing in the fight at all, and hopefully force your opponents to waste their cards. The next card we have here is this Turncoat card, and this is a very powerful one because when you play this card, the battle ends immediately. So this is a really strong one to play maybe after you've played your highest cards, it gets back around to you, and then all of a sudden you can play this one and end the fight immediately without having to donate too many cards to that fight. It's also a really strong card to use towards the end of the game when you need that final region. However, it does have its vulnerabilities because if you are playing those strong cards, of course you are going to be vulnerable to cards like the Bishop. The Drummer card here actually doubles the value of all the Mercenary cards that you've played in that fight. So this is like another good one to lure people into thinking they can win a fight against you. Maybe you've played some, middling cards, they've played some higher cards down, they drop out of the fight, thinking they're still confident in winning the battle, then all of a sudden you play the Drummer card down and all your values are doubled. The Spy card here is a bit more common than some of the other ones we've discussed. However, it does still have its uses. So despite only being a strength 1, if you are the player who's played the most Spy cards in that battle, by the end of the battle, then you are going to take control of the battle marker and get to choose where the next fight takes place, which of course can be used to massive benefit as things start to fill up. The Heroine here rather simply gives you a +10 benefit to your battle strength. However, because she is not a mercenary, she is not going to be affected by cards such as the Drummer or the Season cards, which we'll touch on now. So the first of these Season cards is the Winter Season cards. And when you play one of these cards, you simply put it on the main board to show what season it is. And the Winter card basically means that every single mercenary is going to be worth strength 1. So again, if people have started playing their really strong cards down, if you start playing a Winter card down, everything is going to be completely nerfed back down to a strength 1, meaning that even if you have just low cards in your hand, you still have a chance of winning. And when the Winter is the current season, it really does become a bit more of a war of attrition. How many cards are you going to contribute to this fight and how far are you willing to take it? Now, some other cards still do affect the Winter card, like for example, if you have the Drummer and the Winter out at the same time, then all these strength 1 cards will be taken to strength 2. And much like the Winter card here, the Spring card goes directly onto the board, even replacing the Winter card, or the Winter card would replace the Spring card if this was on the board already. And the Spring card basically adds a +3 strength modifier to the strongest card in the battle at the moment. So again, if the strongest card amongst all the players is a strength 9, then all the strength 9s are going to be suddenly worth a strength 12. So the players are either going to keep playing cards or passing until everybody has passed, and then whoever's got the strongest battle line in that battle is going to place their victory cube in the contested region. Normally the winner of the fight will take the battle marker to determine where the next battle is going to get fought. However, as I mentioned, whoever played the most Spy cards, if any, in the previous round will trump that. So again, taking Spy cards is very powerful for that reason. Now, something I haven't mentioned, which is a pivotal part of this game, is the way the hand management works. Because unlike a lot of card games, whenever you play a card or at the end of the round, you do not draw back up to your hand limit. So these cards that you have that you're dished out at the start of the game have to last you potentially multiple fights, meaning that you really do have to pace yourself and you can't really go gung-ho into all these battles. However, there are some little tricks you can consider, because if you ever play all your mercenary cards and only have special cards left in your hand, you can voluntarily discard all of these special cards, meaning that you'll have no cards left. Now, you might want to do that because if there is only ever one player left with cards in their hand, then they are forced to discard what they have. And that could mean they have a bunch of really powerful cards remaining. So it really is an interesting game of wanting to play your cards, with a relatively easy pace to last you, but not wait too long so that you're caught off guard and are forced to discard a bunch of great cards. And once everybody does have no cards, either through playing them or being forced to discard their cards, that is when you draw back up to your either 10 cards plus 1 card for each region you already control. And as I said, you're going to keep playing that way until somebody has 5 regions anywhere on the board or 3 adjacent regions. So let's just say that the yellow player ended up claiming that region there. They would instantly win the game because they have 3 connecting regions there. Okay, so let's share some thoughts on Condottiere. So I want to start with how easy and simple this game is to digest, because all you do on your turn is to either pass or to play a card. But despite that very simple formula, the consequences and the ripple effect of your actions is absolutely huge, because as we've discussed, these cards interact with each other in a really cool way. Everything has its strengths and weaknesses, and everything has its part to play. And that is really amplified by the fact that these cards have to last you through multiple battles, meaning that every one is a very valued resource. Is now the right time to play it? How am I going to pace myself? When is the time to commit these cards? Should I do it now while I have this strong hand of cards? I don't want to be caught off guard because I don't want to be forced to discard them. However, again, I don't want to be left out of pocket while there's still a bunch of other people with full cards of hands at their disposal. So yeah, there's a lot of weight to your actions here despite the very simple formula. I also love the degree of mind games that come into play with this one. You really do have to get into the head of your opponents and try to think why they are doing what they're doing. Especially when it ties back to a developing board here, you have to read the board state thinking, who is this region important for? Who is this a must win for? And why are they playing the cards they're doing? Because if they keep on playing low cards, you might have to think, why are they playing these low cards if they really need to win this fight? Maybe all of a sudden they are going to turn it to winter and completely ruin all your strong cards and turn them back to a strength 1. Maybe they are going to double the value of all their troops, meaning that you might want to end it early by playing your or something before it gets to that stage. So it really is this kind of game of chicken of, not only when to play the right cards, but how much you are willing to dedicate to things. And something I want to mention of a personal note is that generally I do struggle with remembering what all kind of different role cards and things do with games like this. However, this one did resonate with me instantly because everything makes sense. I don't even have to kind of look at the symbology or anything because I can just completely remember what each card does because everything has its place and there's not like fiddly rules or anything to to take you out of the immersion of the game. You can look at a glance at what these cards do and understand how powerful they are and when is the best time to play them. The time this game takes does vary quite a bit depending on the player count. This does cater to 2 to 6 players, and to be completely transparent, I wouldn't even consider playing this at 2 players. It's just not something I'm looking to do. But if you do, I think you both start with a balanced deck of cards and have to play like that. At 3 players, the game actually does still work really well, and you can actually get it done in about 25 minutes, which is quite remarkable considering the depth that you have to kind of rack your brains over. But where this game really does come alive is at that 4 or 5 player count. It is really fantastic at that, but you are looking at probably slightly longer than the box stage. We played a 5-player game of this the other day, and we were looking probably around 75 to 90 minutes. But that being said, it did go right to the wire. We all had places all over the place. And, it probably was the longest version of the game it was going to be. But despite that, I think everybody was on the edge of their seat and completely immersed and engaged from start to finish, which is quite a big accolade because it's not that often where I'm not looking at my watch thinking, this is taking longer than it needs to. This is taking longer than the box says. In this one, I did not even care because I was that engrossed. I also feel like the replayability for this game is very strong because this is one of those rare exceptions where if you play this game with the same gaming group again and again, you are going to start to develop a bit of a meta game, and those little kind of strategies and tactics that you might use to hoodwink your opponents might not be able to work down the line, meaning that you might have to think outside the box and play things in ways that might not seem so productive to start with. So yeah, I really do like the way that you can develop the game and start to think of new ways to conquer these regions and to win. I think the production for this game is pretty much perfect. The board is pretty small, but it's very nice that this game, especially if this is like meatiness, it fits in this tiny little box on your shelf, so you're getting like a full game experience here without taking much of your shelf. The artwork on the cards is spectacular. This is exactly my tastes when it comes to artwork. Love these kind of medieval drawings. absolutely brilliant to look at. The card stock is also linen finish, so it looks really nice to play with, nice to shuffle. Just good quality all around, not overproduced, not underproduced, and again, because it fits in such a small box, absolutely the cherry on the icing. Okay, so let's get into some final thoughts on Condottiere. And if you can't tell, I think this game is absolutely fantastic. I am enamored with it at the moment. I'm just completely inspired in terms of getting this one back to the table, because I think it is such a brilliantly well executed game, especially if you are looking at that 4, 5 or 6 player count and you want to, cater to those higher player counts without having to lean on lighter games or party games. This is going to be a fantastic option for you to sink your teeth into, but still engaging in those mind games and trying to lure people out to playing their best cards, bluffing, just pacing yourself. The attrition part of the game is absolutely brilliantly executed, and I just think it is such a well done area majority game. It's definitely going to be one of those games that lasts a long time, if not forever, in my collection because of its purity and because of the layers of interaction that this game offers. I'm so impressed. It plays quickly, it plays smoothly, and despite all the different roles, they are easy to understand, and I've not had a single problem in anybody remembering what each thing does. And you know what, there's even like a good reference on the back of the book here. So if they do have that little bit of a problem to remember what all the roles do, they can just have a quick glare at that. But yeah, overall, just so impressed, and I cannot wait to get this back to the table and play it with some people who I've not had the opportunity to share it with yet. If you like area majority games, and even if you like something like The King is Dead, where you do have that mixed with this hand management system, this is a fantastic option, because while I appreciate the games like The King is Dead, it felt a little bit stuffy and a little bit too transparent for me, whereas this one just has that little bit of spiciness, that little bit of, I suppose you could call it luck in relation to the way the cards are distributed, but it just works. I don't even care if the cards work against me, because it's just that much fun and that immersive, and the stakes feel really high despite the breeziness of the rules. So yeah, so impressed, and going straight to my collection and just want to play it more and more, especially at those higher player counts, because it is that good. That is Condottiere.